What's up, guys? Welcome to the Jesse Tre podcast. Second episode in a year, pretty much. So if you don't hear from us for another 6 months, just know we'll be back. But we got a special guest, Mr. Nick. Nick, what
Yeah.
last
Wait,
last
I
name
want to
you?
jump in. I want to
Yeah,
hop in because I wrote a little
little intro.
intro, a little intro. So here we have Nick KiSTLER. He studied with us at Naropa. He's a magician, mystic, and man of many talents. Nick is the founder of Conjunction Press and has authored and co-authored 5 books, with one more coming along soon, titled The 5 Keys Practical Alchemy for the Modern Experience. I remember taking religious and mystical studies classes with Nick back in Naropa and was always inspired by his will and focus to dive deep into the esoteric. His contribution to scholarly discourse was always deeply insightful, and we are honored to have you on the podcast.
Oh, that's so lovely. Thanks, guys. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, so we all have kind of woven, I guess, threads. We all met at the prestigious Naropa University.
let's call it what it is. It's a hippie school.
Put it lightly.
Infamous, I should say.
It's good and bad, but for this purpose, it's good. You know, I think the undergrad is good, is overall good, but the grad is like a little bit meh, mixed bag, which is what I did. But yeah, no, we all lived in the dorms together, and that was interesting.
Yeah, gosh. I remember it. I don't remember what year it was, but I remember I came out once to the bench outside. It must have been the middle of the winter. And Traharan, you were out there doing tumo, like in the snow, like melting, doing pranayama to like melt the snow. It was spectacular.
Was that what I was trying to do? Melt the snow?
I think it was just like cold exposure, but I mean
Yeah.
your whole like a foot off you was warm. It was delightful.
Yeah, we had a number of times bumping into you. I could say for anyone who's done I'm just diving right in here. For anyone who's done psychedelics, you know that you always kind of meet certain people along your trip and journey who kind of contribute to that. And if this is any notion of I guess honor, I bumped into Nick twice while I was tripping on mushrooms, and
Yeah, we always did.
I remember having very nice discussions and very cool philosophical kind of explorations into the nature of consciousness and all that sort of thing. So
Yeah. We actually I think just recently I just filled out my ballot for Colorado, and we're trying to legalize psilocybin, mescaline, and ibogaine for recreational use in small amounts, which sort of a fun twist to the psychedelic push, at least in the States anyway.
that's so cool, because I think the last time we were there, it was just being legalized for medicinal therapeutic purposes. Wow, so that's a huge step. Like, as many downfalls that America has, it's kind of like awesome how forward it is in terms of like legalizing marijuana and certain psychedelic substances as well.
Yeah, I mean, crazy, right? First to ban, first to like liberalize. It's a very weird thing. The United States sort of set the drug policy, and then 70 years later, it's like, well, hang on, maybe we were wrong about that. Let's ease back. Strange how the rest of the world sort of followed suit.
It'll take some time in lots of countries, like the one I live in, if ever. But isn't it just like per state? I mean, like I don't think Georgia or Mississippi's gonna legalize anything, right?
Oh no, definitely not. This was a very Colorado sort of thing to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think it kind of shows something to like that American mentality. I think just in the whole founding, they're very questioning of authority and kind of this. It's almost like a revolution or a rebellion to, I guess, the powers that be to kind of and kind of a show that the force of the people can actually make bills, make legislations, and actually put some change to happen. So it's pretty cool there. Although who knows what kind of problems would arise when if it does get legalized and, you know, some sort of big companies want to come in and try and profit off that.
Yeah, that's that seems to be the big opposition to the bill right now. People are concerned that the corporatization of psychedelics it's gonna basically take it away from the people who need it most. And you know, I was talking to somebody who was like, "Look, we're going for full legalization, full decrim, not, you know, corporate stamp of approval on like patenting psilocybin." And it was like, "Well, okay,
Yeah.
that's a frightening prospect." But
Yeah, that's horrible. Well, hopefully it's all good. I think they did something in Oregon. I think you can have like any drug pretty much. Sounds pretty
wow.
awesome. Yeah, you can just have any drug. Like if you get caught with like a bunch of cocaine. I mean, I think there's limits, but like if you just have like any drug in your pocket and the cops pull you over or whatever. I mean, obviously if you're driving, you're fucked. But like it's decriminalized. You can just get away with anything. It's
Yeah, I
pretty
think
wild.
Portugal's the same, right? The Portuguese set
Is
up
it?
full decrim across the board. That's what I was reading.
Really? I never heard that. I'm not sure.
Well,
Regardless,
yeah, how about we backtrack a little and um so Jesse and I, we had a special name for you when we were in at Naropa because, and it all started because one day we were walking out. Not sure we were doing. I think we were going to go on a walk or something, and you know, we come out of the Naropa dorms, just heading along, and we see someone kind of in the distance amidst the trees, and they're
Peter
just
Winter also.
they're just like moving, and we come closer and Nick's there doing this awesome like kata sort of dance of, and we like come up to him and like, yo, what are you doing? And just this epic line, you're just like
He was
kung
sweating, dude.
fu.
He was panting. He was panting and sweating. He was going like, ooh, ooh, like kicking and shit. And he was like, kung, kung
And
fu,
we're just like,
kung fu, like
and he
really
was like
intense, like
kung fu.
kung fu, northern China or southern China.
So from then on, Jesse and I referred to you as the Dragon Warrior just because of how awesome that was. But I guess we would kind of wanted
Dope
to.
nickname. I would change your name to that if I were you.
Birth certificate.
Dude, that
We
is
just wanted
an
to
awesome
kind
name.
of,
Dragon Warrior.
yeah. So you held a certain status in our eyes, but we kind of just wanted to dive in and see, like, what I know you had so many. I think you, just like me, we were kind of dabbling in a lot of different practices back then when we were in university, and I was just kind of curious about like what sort of stuff were you into then, and how, you know, it's been years since graduation pretty much, and just what's happened since then. Where are you now? What are you doing? Um, and kind of what practices stuck and what sort of things carried on and what fell away.
Sure, yeah. Well, I mean, you know, back in Europa, it was sort of the great thing about the school is it was a melting pot for so many different kinds of weird disciplines and really niche things to get into. So actually, I totally had forgot about that incident you just recalled. My my housemate had
Incident.
taught me. Yeah, right. God, it must have looked that way.
You're murdering the air.
The northern Shaolin style of kung fu is so intense and like fiery. And my buddy had taught me a couple of moves in the forum, so I was trying to kind of add that to my Tai Chi practice, just because Tai Chi is such like a flowing state of affairs, where kung fu is more. It's harder. It has a more I don't want to say masculine, but expansive kind of feel to it. And so it felt like a good balance. But gosh, yeah, I mean, again, the beauty in Europa was I was into meditation, I was doing ceremonial magic, I was, you know, we were doing Tai Chi, we all kinds of centering prayer. At one point, I was doing like Sufi zikr. The full gamut of things was available, and I was talking to a friend the other day about um, why all good spiritual practices sort of eventually self-destruct, because in a certain sense they're designed to facilitate a deep presence and a deep experience of the now. And when that sort of becomes effulgent in your nature, when you're presented with that, the practice has accomplished its function. I think there's a line by Krishnamurti, and he's like, meditation is only for the utmost beginners. And it's such a strange thing to say, because meditation can be a lifelong practice, but I think what he's pointing to is, it's
Mm.
the practice has a fruition and path fruition, right? And both ultimately happen at the same time. So, yeah.
Yeah, dude, that's like, that reminds me of something I read in Siddhartha. It's like a fictional book kind of about this yogi and his journey into enlightenment, but he's like born into this like Brahmin class, and his father does all these austere practices and all these pujas and rituals every day at the river. And he like questions like, are you going to be doing this for the rest of your life? Like, you do your practices, you feel good, and then by the end of the day, you're kind of like back to normal. And then you wake up and you do it all over again. It's like, how do you transition from this to like the stage of like a Buddha or something like that? Like, are you just going to keep doing this forever? And he's like, oh, the father's like very adamant and strict about his practice, where as Siddhartha, he's kind of like questioning, like, why do we have to be doing this every day? And he eventually like leaves and goes on his own journey to kind of find out what works for him, but kind of reminded me of that.
Yeah. I was talking to a Tibetan Buddhist practitioner who told me a story about I think it was a yogi. It might have been I think it was a yogic tradition, but same deal. Guy was in the ashram doing all these like intense austerities day after day, and nothing was happening for him. And one day he just snapped, took off his prayer beads, and threw them in the toilet. And it was that action that granted him liberation. Just the recognition that the structure wasn't important. It was it's not the finger pointing to the moon, rather it's the moon you're after.
Yeah.
It's like riding a bike, it's like once you learn to ride the bike, you don't have to, and you get to where you need to get, you don't have to continue to ride it all the time. Like with meditation, yeah, because I think about that too, because I used to meditate a lot more than I do now. And I'm still like, if I want to right now, I could still just sit and meditate for like 8 hours straight, like it's like it doesn't go away. It's like, I mean, for me at least, it just stays. It's I don't think my level, maybe for like a few days I'd be sloppy or something. Maybe I don't think so, honestly. But yeah, I think that like you have to question things, and a lot of spiritual people, and this is what one thing I wanted to get to is like, we were all at the same school, all very different pasts, and now we're all in very different places geographically and psychologically, and I just find it interesting, like how we were, being taught. Let's say we're in a similar environment, so we're learning a lot of the same things at that time, and then we took all that, and you're still in Boulder, Trey's in France, I'm in Romania. Like, I just want to kind of, I don't know, see like how all our lives are, how they've changed, how the Naropa or whatever, like that experience in Boulder, like affected us and kind of got us to where we are now.
One thing that I kind of is coalescing from this is like, I've just started an archery practice, not just started, but like been going on it for a year. And one thing I noticed, like especially related to what Nick was saying, is that you have to learn all the technique in archery. Like, you have to have your draw point, you have to have your shoulders and body in the right alignment and placement and everything. And then after a while, you're no longer going through that checklist in your head, but it becomes automatic. And one thing about like releasing is like you want to almost like surprise yourself on the release. So you're getting to this point of like intuitive instinct where it's like you're no longer going through the checklist, you're just drawing, and the release is almost a surprise because you're almost like splitting your mind in some way. So this happens outside of my control. And there's this strange thing that happens is that when you're aiming at the bullseye at first, the bullseye is like separate. It's like this target that you're trying to hit. And then after a while, you realize that you're kind of to really hit that center point, you have to be in this state where it's almost like you're shooting at yourself. It's like you're aiming at your own chest, and it's that feeling like when it hits that bullseye, you've hit yourself, and that kind of reminds me of what you've been talking about with this meditation, where you get all these instructions, and like you got, you count your breath, you inhale, exhale, you visualize this key that these ancient yogis have done. You do all these different stretches or practices to do it, and then eventually you kind of get into this state where it undoes itself, and you're no longer following that, but you're almost following a more primal instinct in a way, and it's your heart or your soul or something is guiding you instead of those instructions.
Yeah, totally. It's like that old Zen line, right? At first there are mountains, then there are no mountains, then mountains are. You sort of go through that process of the unwinding of the self to kind of get to the let's call it the nature of what's underneath.
Yeah, but then what happens after is my question, because it's like, like I feel like it's like a Jedi training, and like there's this like meme on Instagram I saw a while ago. It was like something like, when you first get spiritual, and it was like someone with like, it was like all these flowers and just like happy, like, whatever like I forget what images there were, but just, butterflies and all that. And then it was
Unicorns,
like, what's that?
unicorns probably too.
Yeah, unicorns. And then it was like 3 years, I forget what it said. It's like, and then like years later, and it's like the same girl like smoking a cigarette at like a rave or something like that. And I just like, I found that like super funny, because I'm like for me, it's like, it was very like important. Like I wrote a book where I spoke about a lot of things, but like that was, part of the book was talking about like how important that was for me. But yeah, it's just, I find it interesting. We're all here, and I'm a big like, I'm a Jupiterian, so like I'm all about like zoomed out. Like I like look at the big picture and everything. You guys, my sky looks kind of cool with that camera, huh?
Does look cool, yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
It looks better on the camera than in real life right now. But it's like very cloudy, but looks like very like Batman-y. But yeah, it's like I just kind of want to see, like, because like for me, like and we can kind of maybe go one by one. Like I think like Naropa for me taught me a lot of things, but I always had like a more distanced, like even when I was going through like my drug rehab, like I always like kind of distanced myself from a lot of like this, like I kind of kept spirituality to myself. I mean, obviously me and Trey did a lot of things. But, like I was very like, I'd say private. I've always been quite private about like meditation, and like I didn't really do that many group meditations. Like I always found, I don't know, I always for some reason like feel like spirituality is like a very like private thing. And I totally understand people who are different and who want to have that group component, like but I feel like I've taken it, and obviously my life has been, like I, as an astrologer, like, which God-given talent, like I learned everything in fucking 6 months that someone knew at 10 years. Like I had no choice, obviously, by God than to fucking continue to do what I'm doing. So I feel like that has kind of forced me, because like the work that I do in itself is spiritual. Like, like I'm talking to people about and giving people advice, and seeing things, and I'm always going back to these principles. But I wonder sometimes like where I'd be without the astrology, because like I definitely have moved to a place, like I like watching like YouTube. I'm very like in line with like, what's going on in the world, and I don't, I don't, basically what I'm trying to say is like at Naropa, I was like very in this like anti-mainstream kind of just like whole bubble. But now like I feel like it helped create me in or form me into a stronger person, a person with spiritual values. And now I'm just me, how I was before, but with these added things, right? So it's like kind of created like a split in my personality where I have like old Jesse like upgraded, and then me as an astrologer, spiritual person. And
Hmm.
curious how it is for you guys, like if you can kind of see what I'm trying to get to with that.
Curious. I mean, I was following Ben Williams, one of the professors at Naropa, and
Awesome
he
guy.
oh my God, yeah, brilliant. I think he was Harvard educated, right? Like just unbelievably intelligent. He posted this quote from one of his teachers on Facebook a while back about how every spiritual tradition is so different in terms of what it brings up in the subjective experience, and that it's
Mm,
pluralism basically to the root. And everyone's sort of experience of their religion or their spirituality is going to be, let's say, flavored or seasoned with
Hmm.
the sort of the karmic
yes.
seeds of the individual. So yeah, I mean, on your journey, Jesse, like that whole notion where at first you had to have sort of a core or fall back in on yourself to build a self in a certain sense, and then you could move out and become, how you've sort of become now. It's this, if we don't build a strong ego, if we don't build a strong sense of self, then all these practices like ego dissolution or destroying the self or cutting to the root and understanding self, none of that matters if you're not functional. And so
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
that
Especially if you
period you
don't
went,
learn. I don't want to interrupt, but like you're so right. Especially like I think of like situations like things I learned at Naropa that I don't even realize I learned. Like like if someone's like hating on me or something like that, like or if I'm getting like just like how I deal with conflict or with any kind of like just fucked up situations. I feel like that time, yeah, it was exactly as you said it. Like it was very like it was really building me at a core. I was like rebuilding myself, and I don't even realize it now. But it's like that. For example, like if I check my comments on my post yesterday or yesterday, I saw like one like kind of like negative, which I get very rarely. One kind of like negative comment. Um, and maybe the old me would have like been combative and argumentative, like fuck you. But like I always just kind of take a breath and I just deal with it in a very diplomatic way. I always kind of like what, you're right. Like there's some truth to that. What you said, and yeah, I think like it's little things like that that for me made that experience so valuable. But Nick, so now you have your bookstore. And you're doing lots of you're writing books, you're doing a lot of things. You kind of found your niche this is what I'm getting at, right? It's like we were like Jedis in training, like what Luke Skywalker is like with Yoda, like in the swamp. It's not sexy, it's not like, but like it's very needed, and now we're in the
I
real
mean,
world.
maybe on DeviantArt you might find another lens to that scene.
What's that?
On DeviantArt. Sorry, bad joke. DeviantArt.
Yeah, I don't get it. I don't get the
DeviantArt is like where there's a lot of like sexy fanfic.
it's like a
yeah.
lewd, like nice.
Yeah. Nice. Well, yeah, but like, okay, so what I'm trying to get at is like now you're in the real world. I mean, you still live in Boulder,
Mhm.
but you
Yeah, as real as
where
that is.
yeah, exactly. But but you're not in like yeah, so you're kind of like me in the sense that like I like you do spiritual, your bookstore is but I'm sure it's not only spiritual books, and you're not dealing with only spiritual people. You're probably having to deal with lots of like business stuff that comes up. And I'm just curious like how your time at Naropa, and I know it's still ongoing. It's always ongoing. Like even if you're not practicing spirituality, like a relationship is spiritual. What you have to go through and learn through that. Everything is fucking karmic and spiritual. But I'm just curious how that's contributed, because not like when I talked to you like I don't know, like a month ago or whatever, like I felt like a huge difference. Like I was like, damn, he's really like integrated, like he's moved away from like just this kind of like me, like he's moved away from like just this like being in this little world to like being in the big world, but still kept himself. He feels way more solid. I feel like you feel way more masculine, but when I say that, I mean way more like assertive and sure of yourself. So yeah, curious about that, how that all happened and how it's going.
Sure. Well, when I was at Naropa, I think it was my second year, I took initiation into the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, and basically drilled on practices for an hour and change every morning for like 5 years.
Yeah.
And in that time, I think by the time I'd gotten to the third grade in the system, I'd written like 6 books for a company, Freebird. Freebird Publishing and the Freebird Foundation. And then after that, I had written like 5 more books that were sort of my own enterprise, and I sort of watched myself as I built discipline through these practices become functional. And so when I left Naropa, I started to run this bookshop, and I was continuing my writing, and it was like the foundation of those practices that constructed this discipline for me trickled out into the rest of my life. And so, sure, I was just doing, meditation and magic in the morning, but then as the day progressed, I was doing writing, I was working on the body, I was working on my finances, I was sort of like just getting the whole sort of holistic view put together. So, I mean, really, the name of the game is discipline. I had a friend ask me like, why, like what runs you? And it's just like, I'm just running on the fumes of discipline that I cultivated over like 5 years because I needed to know what was possible.
I like
I wasn't
that.
content just sort of like, meandering through, right? Like, what's your potential? And are you comfortable dying without knowing that?
Yeah. So when you say potential, like, speak more to that.
Sure. I mean, like I feel like everybody has this sort of slight inclination. Here, let's put it this way. 80% of Americans think that they have a good book idea in them, right? Think that they could write a decent book.
Yeah.
Why is it that only less than 0.5% of Americans will ever do it?
Lazy.
Right.
Not sure of themselves. Always making up excuses, right? Like, oh, I'll do it tomorrow. Oh, I can't do this. Oh, it's not gonna. Yeah, I have this great idea, but like, no one's gonna read it, right? No one's like, I'm not gonna be able to. Like, there's so many books. No one reads books anymore. People only watch TikToks. Blah 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 blah. It's like but like that's the whole point of art. And when I talk about the Leo archetype, like the low and the high Leo archetype, it's like low Leo is like, I'm only doing this for how many people are going to buy my book, how many people are going to view my story or view my whatever, like my shit, follow me. High Leo, right, is like pure expression of the inner child, expression of the authentic self. It's like art therapy. It's like for the sole purpose of just getting what's in out. Like when I wrote my book, it was purely like, and I didn't realize it till after, but I was writing it because I wanted to know how I wanted to be able to read this. I want to be able to read this in 10 years if I ever have kids or if I, like whatever. Like I want to be able to show this book to people and see, and even for me to see how I used to think, at 28, 29. And I think that's kind of trippy to think about, if you just like write a book about like what you think and like the things you find important, and then you read it like when you're 50, if I make it that far, which judging by these days, I'm not gonna make it to 2020 till 2026. But yeah.
No, it's okay. At least you're good till 70 something, right? That's what that
60 or 50
60.
something. I forget. Yeah.
That's right. You guys did that video on. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. She like fucking. She was fucking with me though. I know it. We're still talking. We're gonna get. I'm gonna get her in my group. Mika. But yeah, you were saying, Nick, the potential thing.
Yeah, I mean, look, I really do believe that everybody has, if not a book in them, at least a really good essay. But the to have a mind that can think and a body that can feel opens you up to so many potentialities that I wasn't comfortable staying dormant like I had been up until that point in my life. I think probably some weird fusion of psychedelics and spiritual practice and Naropa and the community that was sort of arising from that, and a distaste for what seemed to be the prevailing like norms of the culture that I was immersed in. It pushed me to try to not have that. Like, I don't know. I guess if you have the vision of yourself, and for a while I smoked cigarettes too. So I had the vision of myself. I'd get to 50, I'd have lung cancer, I'd be on a couch in an apartment that was cheap with, alone, and never having pushed myself, never having gone after what I
Oh,
thought was
you
important.
had like a sharp image of that one day, or it was a prevailing Mika, stop. Like a prevailing like kind of thing, like that kind of scared you into action.
It's just sort of an overriding thing, because I'd seen so many
Yeah.
other people in the culture like have that happen to
Oh,
them.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, because
And
you can get easily lost in that. Like for me, I was locked up in a closed mindset growing up in like a really rigid societal structure in Singapore. And for me, leaving Singapore and going to Canada, where weed was very available, psychedelics was very available, that is what kind of cracked me open and showed me this kind of other world. It's like it opened up the layers of the tapestry of reality and showed me, hey, there's something deeper here. You've been operating on a slightly dissociated suboptimal kind of frequency. You're only looking at the surface area. You're only seeing the tree as the label in your head. Let's peel back that thin layer of reality and see what's inside. And that insight, that window into that deeper reality can be so enticing, because so many people say if they've taken ayahuasca or DMT or some sort of mushrooms like that, it's like the reality that they glimpse into is more real than the one that when they're sober. It's kind of a common occurrence. So it's like, I know for me, what I accidentally kind of got an unhealthy ego attached to the version of myself that I was when I was on psychedelics or taking certain things like that. And
Which is natural.
yeah. And I can see how like my ego would form around it and kind of be negative if I wasn't in this like optimal kind of in tune higher state version of myself. And it's also like, as much as I can't, that kind of sort of medicinal plants say like get there sober, I always used to get that message, find a way to do that sober. It can be easy to continuously want to seek that reality, to seek those truths again, to dive in deeper. And what happens is it's almost like this unraveling of the concrete reality that you used to be in, that you've now foregone. It's like, that's not real anymore. This is reality. This is the real thing. And yeah, so I remember just being so airy, so ethereal, so like caught in like these other realms. And then after like, okay, let's try and move into the yogic practices, doing those deep yogic practices every morning for like 2 hours, the chanting, the Sufi zikrs, and going into shavasana and just having out of body experiences and having to go to work and like barely able to like put some Tiffin's chicken into a plastic box.
Look at
you know
Mika.
yeah, and I see that, like, Jesse and I would often commentate on kind of how you can get lost in that. And you do see
Yeah.
people go off the deep end in that regard. And just it's almost like this dream is only a mushroom cap away, but then your reality, the solidified reality kind of starts to fall apart, and you end up, I don't know, just drugging out at festivals every
Yeah.
other month, or
Fry your
working
brain.
jobs to afford the ketamine and stuff like that. And that's kind of the culture that's around that stuff.
yeah. Well, it's wild, right? Because I feel like a lot of folks come from that solidified structure, like whether it's growing up in a very, let's call it a strict culture like Singapore, or just a puritanical household or whatever. And then you take psychedelics and you're like, whoa, okay, I was wrong about everything. Like,
Yeah.
obviously, this one is right now. But we don't
Yeah.
stop to think. It's like, well, what if all the lenses are wrong? Like what
Yeah.
if we're just like
Ooh,
cycling
ooh.
through different sets? And I don't know. Same kind of experience. I took it. I was a hardcore atheist, Marxist, the whole
Yeah.
shebang. Took it,
Yeah.
was like,
Okay. Marxist
that
Nick. I
was,
love that. That'd be a cool username. Podcast with at Marxist Nick.
oh yeah,
Marxist
man,
Communist Nick.
it was miserable. I had the whole sickle and hammer. It was a yikes.
Yeah, you guys
Uh,
both had crazy versions of yourself before spirituality. I mean, I did too. Mine was actually crazy, but at least at least I did drugs and stuff. Yeah.
right.
Drug addict, frat boy, self-harming emo, and atheist Marxist.
Yeah. Which is like the big thing I'm trying to get at right now is I'm trying to like pinpoint this. This is what's so interesting about this is that like we've all we're all extreme people. All three of us are like 10 out of 10 extreme. Would you agree? Trey, shut the fuck up. You don't even contain you're 10 out of 10 extreme. I am. You are. Don't fucking even try to doubt it, even though you live in fucking
It's like power
forest.
chord.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Trey's either here or here. He's extreme. I'm the same. And Nick, you're the same. So that's what I find interesting is that like if you think of like even power in general, it's like back and forth. So like there's people, so I gave this metaphor in my book where there's people who I was happy that I was like a fucking explosive drug addict, Xanax, because like it was very obvious. Like I would rather like when you think of energy, it's like I would rather be at zero, but then that catapults me to 100, than be it like always my life be between like 40 and 60. Does that make sense? So I feel like what we're talking about when you talk about these people, that version of yourself that you saw that you want to move away from, that 50-year-old version on the couch smoking cigarettes alone, that's kind of that, right? So it's like I feel like we've all had experiences that have catapulted us into different places metaphorically and physically for me and Trey, but even for you, I would say physically, even though you live in Boulder, you live in a different Boulder. Um,
Well, you gotta understand, I grew up in Philadelphia, which
yeah,
halfway across the country, and recognize it's the same United States, but far enough
yeah,
away to be a
very
Europe and
different.
change.
Yeah, it's like going from fucking Romania to England or some shit.
Yeah,
Probably.
but one thing that conjured up, Jesse, was and also something I got the chance to just dabble into one of your books, Nick, The Seven Spirits. And one of the things you mentioned in the introductions was just how all these different spiritual leaders had their vices. They had their fixes on their certain desires. Like I can't remember the examples all you gave, but you listed like Helena Blavatsky and God, who is that guy? Aleister Crowley, probably, and Trungpa Rinpoche, the founder of Naropa, with his cocaine and his drinking and all of that. And then kind of bringing up this notion of the idea of this guy kind of unicycle on this like teetering balance of the madman and the mystic, and what's really the difference there?
Yeah. I feel like in some sense the madman just believes that what he's seeing is real, and the mystic is, there's this wonderful line. I can't remember who told it to me, but uh, this a man passes away and he shows up at the gates of heaven, and St. Peter says, welcome to heaven, like you're dead. And the guy says, well, how do I know this is real, or if it's not just some figment of my imagination? And way back from behind the gates, a booming voice comes out like, let him in, he's one of us. And I just like that notion of the skepticism of your reality is so, I think it's so important, because if you believe your own belief system, or BS, as Robert Anton Wilson says, then you're in for a world of hurt, because those systems are always subject to just collapsing around you.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So true. Yeah, and the more I think you cling to your beliefs, the more life sets you up to have conflict almost, or to have argument, or to almost like defend yourself in holding of that belief. And you can get easily offended because you begin to attach these ideas or viewpoints of life to your ego, and then your ego becomes all like wrapped up in it. And so if someone challenges it or thinks it's wrong, you get all offended and stuff like that. And yeah, so really, I think finding that, letting go of that belief, and not what's real, what's not, what it's so vast to think about. There's all these different lenses you can view reality through, whether it be through psychedelics, deep meditation, just smoking a cigarette and working a 9-to-5 job, and what's real in all of it. And I guess I kind of want to dive deeper into kind of some ideas that all of us might have, and we can go and just off the top of the brain, but like what is our experience with kind of this world, this experience through the body in relation to reality, what happens after, and what might be at the core of all of this? Is it nothing? Is it everything? Is it a mix of both? And just to start us off, I think I remember all three of us, we were having a little debate outside Naropa, where I think Jesse was talking about the idea of a soul, as an individualized soul when we die. And he was talking about this book that he read about like past lives and what happens after you die and things like that. And Nick was kind of offering this view. It's like, well, I don't really know if I believe in the individualized soul. It's more of this everything, and that was back then. So, obviously ideas and things can change. That like when you die, you return to the amalgamation of everything, every cell, or nothing at the same time. So maybe we can start there.
Yeah, I'm gonna start because I'm gonna say something
Please.
from that I believe is so true, and it's gonna, yeah. So I strongly believe that we were constructed in a way by God, and this is shown, in the 24,000 year cycles in the Vedas.
Well, what's your backup idea of God on your reserves?
Wait, I'm getting to it. My backup idea of God?
Yeah, like who's God to you?
I don't know. This is my point. This is what I'm talking. This is what I'm saying. So I believe that God purposely made it so we were unable. So our brains as humans, our souls, our brains, whatever you want to call it, like both, were unable at different periods of the cycle, this continuous cycle. That right now we're in a very low dense vibe or time, and for the next 12,000 years we'll be moving closer and closer to this period of mass enlightenment, right? Now it's more mass ignorance, but I believe that we were created in that specific times, like now, to not understand things. Like I believe that there's things that the brain is meant, and the brain, or even like deep contemplation, that we're not meant to even be able to get. And I really believe that. And I think that that's what trips so many people out, is that people are so obsessed with control, especially, and even at an unconscious level, even like very spiritual people, they're like, they want to know, and but they're aiming. But I feel like the only way you can really know is by just feeling. And like for me with God, it's never been through seeing God as like like a man, or seeing God as like a force. Like I don't fucking know, but what I do know is that I feel God, I've experienced God. I see God in my astrology speaking to me through the charts. So it's one of those things where it's like, I feel like it's, it's like you can run in circles and circles and circles trying to understand it. But sometimes those circles will make you even more confused than just feeling and accepting and surrendering.
Mm.
Because like and like in terms of like a form or like the thing you said about different different souls, like yeah, I think that like at the core of everything all is one, but I think that that's a different level, a different level of experience, a different level of consciousness, a different level of existence, that it's where they say we only use like 8 or 12% of our brain, which is obviously like just it's not that relative to what I'm saying, but it's kind of it's kind of showing what I'm trying to say a little bit, right? It's like we only have access to what we're able to have access to, because if we didn't, then we would get everything. And then the whole point of being here is to work through karma, right? Individual karma that we've created. And if we
we
just
believe in
knew,
karma.
well, karma, it's, I mean, come on, like literally, like, come on, come on.
That's just another belief. If you like,
It's not a belief to me because I've literally proven it like through my work. Like my work is based
Well,
on karma,
I think in some sense, if we take karma to mean like action, right? It's hard to, you can say clearly like subjectively action exists in the world, right? So like a sort of a clean boxed idea of karma, like it's hard to be like, well, things don't happen unless you're an anti-realist, but that position seems untenable.
Yeah, that's a rough one. That's a cool one though. I think I might go for that
yeah.
now. Nick, you convinced me. I'm an anti-realist now.
I
Fuck
mean,
astrology.
unless in like, can you say your action affects the future? You could, in a relative perspective, if you're in a body, maybe you dropped a big weight on your foot, and then that action broke your toes, and that could be a karma in itself, I guess, right?
Yeah.
And then, but then, was that action always meant to happen? Are there multiple timelines? Does it really have an effect in the grand scheme of things? Like, was there a chance that you were in a body that had tentacle feet and they moved right out of the way at the last
Well,
second?
it's still energy. Like my question is, do we as souls have tendencies? Like, do we have tendencies? Do I have a tendency to be away? Do you have a tendency to be away? Do you have a tendency to be away? And a lower tendency or a higher tendency? Because that's the whole thing with the South Node and North Node astrology, is that the South Node is speaking about kind of like not necessarily a lower tendency, but a been there, done that, right? In different incarnations that we're dealing with the karma with in this incarnation. And the North Node is a point that's speaking about kind of how we're trying to undo that, and it's like a metaphoric mountain never climbed before in past lives, and we're trying to get, or like really, it's like dharma. It's like what we're the ultimate soul dharma is like where we're trying to get to. So when I speak of karma, I'm talking more about that level, which of course, when you move past that, yeah, then it becomes something totally different.
I hear what you're saying. So if I might characterize that, it sounds to me like that's a sort of idealism, right? Like Plato's got these forms, this like perfected version of, let's say Jesse out there somewhere in the aether. And the function of this, let's call it incarnation, is to like move closer and closer and closer and eventually merge with like the perfected Jesse. Is that like what I'm hearing? Like
kind of. Okay, I'll give you a good well, it's a very obvious example. And it goes way deeper than that, and there's so much to like the karmic astrology, right? This is just one little part of it, right? It's like sun sign astrology, kind of like, but it still is important. So like my South Node's Leo. Like I'm a Leo rising. I'm very fucking Leo. If you met me, I fucking am Leo as fuck. But like there's a lot of been there, done that. So I've seen in my life when I told you guys already before about the low and high Leo, right? About the low Leo being like kind of like I want to be like the most famous. Like I have that in my soul. I feel that. Like I have that drive. Like I want to be fucking mega famous. I've always been like that since I was young. But I've also noticed, and then my North Node's in Aquarius, which is like basically saying like, and it's in the house of relationships, which fuck that shit. Which it shows so much in my life. Like I have a tendency to be a little bit selfish, a little bit like kind of superstar energy, but like less like willing to kind of give myself to relationships and to kind of compromise, and being way more about my creative process and whatever I'm doing. And I've seen that when I go areas like with music and stuff, like different things that I have talents in, whenever I try to go in that Leo way of like of fame, like something that's more feeding the ego, it always gets blocked. So when I do things like Aquarius, which Aquarius is very humanitarian, it's all about doing things for the people. It's about like literally, it's like it's moving from the I to the we. And whenever
Okay.
so whenever I do things like that, like my work now, I have to always remind myself, and it's not always now. Now it's just it's embedded in me. Like, I'll do a reading. A lot of astrologers will have like an hour. Like that's it. You pay that much money. For me, it's like I'll go 2 hours plus if I have to get you the cosmic answer, like to get you to really solve everything. So it's like that's just one example. Like when I am really really doing things for the metaphysical value, which is what I always tell people, it's like think of the metaphysical value of what you're doing as opposed to the physical value. That's where I thrive. And yeah, so that's kind of like one kind of mini example, but there's like a million different things because karma is not that simplified.
Sure. So if I can rephrase then,
Yeah.
it seems as though there's this notion of like an essence, right? Like your essence of Jesse-ness, that it is not determinant upon like physical things at all. It's like a metaphysical concept of you. Is
Beautiful.
that
Yeah,
okay?
exactly. It could be in any incarnation. It could have been me in a dolphin world. It could have been me as a pebble. It could have been me as a traharn. As
Yeah, but some sort of metaphysical impulse that like separates or individualizes you
yes,
separate from another's I guess impulse.
two people can have similar karmas, but at the end of the day, it's like you might or like when I say karmas, I mean like what we're dealing with in this lifetime, right? So it's like you only deal with I'm not dealing with every fucking lifetime. I hope not. Maybe I am. Who knows? I doubt it. I think that's very much impossible. But
Well, do we have any
very heavy.
other ideas? Any
Well,
other?
well, I guess what I was trying to do is I'm trying to differentiate that strain of thought from like existentialism, right? Where it's like existence precedes essence in existentialism. So it's like you're like tabula rasa kind of thing. You're blank. You don't have an inbuilt spirit or soul or essence or function. You must construct that as you sort of go through the world, versus like something like an idealism where it's like, well, God imbued you with a particular spirit that is like you-ness, and the journey of a lifetime is to kind of come into alignment with that. They seem to be like dipolar or bipolar like functions, I guess.
Yeah.
I would submit that taking any as like objective truth is well, I would just call it an impossibility, because to claim something with absolute objective certainty ignores the fact that we're like limited sensorially. Now, I'm not saying that like if you believe in astrology, or if you believe in God, if you're an existentialist, or any of that, like isn't useful if you believe in that and then act on it. It just seems to me to be it's difficult to claim with certainty, capital T, truth about those sort of states of affairs, if that makes sense.
And that goes back to exactly what I was saying, right? About like like if for example, and astrology has been proven, but it's like it hasn't been proven enough to where it's like a science, right? Like
Well,
what
I
people
would
can
see
call
it
a
as like a
science.
modality, just like how we were talking in the beginning. It's like a lens. It's a lens to view reality through a specific
It's a
way.
language. It's God's
Is
language.
that the is that
It's
the
God.
only proven truth? No. There's many other different proven truths, and there could be proven truths that conflict it in some way, but you're deciding, you've made the decision and the willing choice to view reality through that lens, and to structure your mind form, and your everything to kind of relate to the world in a language that is astrological, or and the language you use to relate to reality, but someone could come up with maybe similar theories or even opposite theories using a different modality, and that could also equally be true. Like for me, I kind of see more of a omniscient animism, where we're all in a consciousness that exists through everything, and we've kind of gone into the state of amnesia, the forgetting of totality, because for some to kind of know ourselves through a smaller lens. But then even then, as I explain that, I'm like, yeah, that could be broken down too. And is there really any true answer?
You see, we're running in circles.
Totally.
Yeah, exactly.
We're doing exactly what I said at the start. We're running in circles. So it's like Trey, you told me the other day, or not the other day, a while ago, you're like, I feel less attached to God. Like you told me a few, like, I don't know, maybe a month. I don't fucking know time anymore. But like you said something like, I used to feel this constant closeness to the divine, and I haven't felt that in a while. Remember when we had that talk?
Yeah.
And I was telling you, I was like, for me in my work, I have no choice. Like, cause like every time I do a reading, I'm literally with like the divine. Like I feel it. I get downloads. Like I get things shot into my fucking head that I fucking don't remember after a reading. I don't, like, literally, if you quizzed me on what I said during that reading, it goes past flow state. It's like, I don't even know what the fucking person's sun sign or moon sign was. Like when I finished 5 minutes after finishing the reading, because I'm in such a trance. And, so I experience God through myself because I'm a channel of God. Like when I do readings, it's literally me channeling something. Because I don't know what the fuck I'm saying. So yeah, I think that brings me that closeness to it. That's can't be put into words, just experienced.
It's funny, right? Because I feel like a lot of seekers, let's say, have this problem where they construct a belief system, and then they hit the wall that's the limit of self-knowledge, where it's like, well, I'm a limited sensory creature, there's no way I can perceive objective truth, it's impossible for me to really know anything. And like one of three things happens. The first is you just slide into nihilism, where, oh, there's no truth, life is meaningless, we can never discover the truth, so blah blah blah, we have to either be existentialists and create our own meaning, or we just are now sad for the rest of our lives. The second is that sort of irrational, like, knowing, right? Like in the sort of the spiritual seeker sense, it's like, well, like, I can't know, but obviously it's true, so like I'm going to continue to act as though. And the third option is one that I don't think is taken very often, but it's this notion that, like, well, it may or may not be true, but it's useful to believe and act as though it is, so I'm going to continue to do so.
Totally.
Yeah, it's a lot of religion, right?
Well, yeah, like, because the thing is, this is like where I think you mean by that is like, okay, I could believe that everything sucks, that nothing has any meaning, but what does that do for me now in the present?
Exactly.
Like,
Yeah.
or I could
Tate talks
believe
about.
something else that actually uplifts me, makes my reality more vibrant,
Yeah, but then you're lying to yourself, like, because you're like what I'm
so what's
what
the
I'm saying,
truth then? But you can't really have, like,
because
I
I'm
think
saying you have
every
to
belief is a
you have to
lie.
you have to experience it. Like that's what I'm saying is, like, I can't if I could put my experience into your head, then you would get what I'm experiencing, what I'm feeling, what I'm seeing,
Well,
what I'm
but
all
see,
this connection.
I have a tendency not to trust my own experience,
Yeah.
because it's fundamentally a limited proposition. Like, I when I took LSD, for instance, right, and I had the vision of the universal totality, it's all one, right? It's this total experience. And then I come back and I say, well, there seems to be correlate with brain chemistry. And 20 minutes ago, I definitely believed that Marxism was the truth, and I knew it in my bones. And now
Yeah.
I for sure know that's wrong. So, like, how can I know that my experience is telling me what's actually happening?
Yeah. And I think you can't, like, your experience can tell you one thing, like just the absolute certainty that my truth and my calling was to become a gamer streamer at one point in my life. And then, like, I was like, fuck yoga, fuck that shit, I'm atheist, fuck God, like all of that stuff. Like, religion is just a way for people to feel better about the fact that when we die we hit nothingness, like that was my
Yeah.
reality. That was
Meant to
my
be
truth.
though, but
And
it was meant to be like that for you to
yeah, and
seek
then I take
otherwise.
LSD one time, fucking whole new worldview. Then, I have that ego death like Nick was just talking about, and I'm like, oh shit, I've just been every single insect, every single leaf, every single cell, everything at once. And then I take it again, and with this Christian guy on the top of a mountain, and I'm like, whoa, there's a white light pillar that's like beaming down, and I can hear the songs of the angels. And then, you take, DMT another time, and I'm like I'm just incarnating through all these different animals. I'm a worm, I'm a bee, I'm a lizard, I'm a eagle, so there's like all of those different things you could say are from like different beliefs. And there's the DMT experience too, where I'm like in the kind of Hindu perspective, where I'm seeing all these deities and these masks, and peeling back the mask to see that the fear is actually nothingness, and on the other side of nothingness is everything. So there's all these different experiences you can have, and all of them felt so true in that moment. Felt, and it's just, but then at the end of the day, like, they're all true and they're not true, but you know
Yeah, it's like a willed irrationality, like depending on what, I was talking to a Christian friend and it's like, well, we can't know if Christ was the Son of God, right? Like the only one that will ever be and whatever, but it's pragmatically useful to treat Christ as a savior, because then when you mess up, you just say, okay, look, I'll just go back and I'll try to be like Christ again. And as long as you keep doing that, like you're just permanently saved. And it's,
yeah,
Christianity isn't the only system that has that sort of thing in it, but uh like that kind of notion where it's like, well, it may or may not be true, but it is wickedly useful to treat it as though it is.
yeah,
I could not exist. I don't know. I just if that was how I felt about things, like internally, like truth, purely like like my beliefs, my reality was like contested in any way. I feel like I would just be like like I would just fucking be like a hedonist, like I would, because like to me it's like it's been proven so obviously, like in such obvious manners, like so many times. I'm not even talking about just astrology, like divine intervention when I'm dying, like things like just like so many synchronicities, um that it became obvious to me years ago, and it's just been like every single day. I don't think I've lost that. I don't think there's been one moment, even like when I wake up like broken, I'm still feeling God. I'm still close to God, and it's not. There's no part of it that's like a convincing. I hear what you're saying, right? Like no part of it, like it all came naturally, because like I used to be just the full opposite, and I'm not gonna just go for something unless like it's been proven to me, like through whatever experiences or through whatever. Yeah,
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, in a certain sense, that's what I'm saying. Like the only way, William James, right, the guy who wrote Varieties of Mystical Experience and Pragmatism, he's got this wonderful line that truth is a species of the good. And I love that because it takes truth from like this meta category where it's like this thing is true, and it brings it
yeah.
down where it's like, well, what is true is what is immediately applicable and helpful to our subjective experiences. And in your experience, astrology rings true as a bell because it helps you, it helps your clients, it helps the world around you, it helps the expansion of the world. And uh, I love that. I love that that can be such a
Yeah, but it's more than
it's
just
so
astrology.
malleable.
yeah, but just also, wait,
Astrology is just a part of it, right? Astrology is just like a thing I do, it's
Right,
just like
right.
a it's just like it's something I'm good at naturally from past lives of doing it so much that, but like that's only like my job. Like I mean I love it, but it's not like I after I'm done doing my readings, like I go and watch astrology videos. Like I watch comedy. I watch, you know, I stay away. I stay like I literally like I do my shit and I'm out. Um, but like no, like astrology is God's language, but still, what you know that doesn't like connect you to God. Like the only connection to God. I remember being with the psychic Jacqueline in L.A. with Mia. It's my friend, my really good friend, and she like rolled these stones. She's like this amazing psychic. She had these stones, and they each represent like a different chakra or something like that. And one of them was the U. One of them, and they all represented like I think different chakras, and like wherever they landed, like there was some correlation, right? And mine landed exactly like the one that was me, exactly like right on like the crown, like on the divine. And she's like, you're extremely close to God. And you know, bringing it to astrology, you know, I had the highest degree of Pisces sun you can have, or like 29 is bad, right? So it's 28 Pisces is like it's like unlimited imagination, unlimited connection to divine. So it's like, what's your astrology, Nick? Do you know like your big three? I should have had your chart.
Yeah, sun sign Sag, moon sign Cancer, ascendant is Aries.
Okay.
Yeah, but
It's
then you can also say there's like different astrology. You know, there's
yeah,
Mayan
exactly.
astrology,
No,
Vedic
that's
astrology.
that's
I
what I was
think
getting at next.
one thing I wanted to like bring up is like how my beliefs served to save me in a way, or to like dig me out of where I was. So it's like I had a certain set of beliefs, like maybe for you, Jesse, you were in drug addiction, you had like a certain, you were in a certain mental state. And the experience that followed after coming to Naropa, having certain spiritual experiences, almost lifted you out of that. And, you know, similar for me as well. And I remember I used to have this fear around letting go of those beliefs because I still feared returning to that version of myself before I kind of got saved by, you know, this, you know, belief system or acknowledgement of some sort of divine thing. Or and yeah, like so in that way it's like this divine thing gives me a whole new purpose to life, a whole new meaning, a whole new aspirations. But then at the same time, it's like to know that I don't know anything about really like what is the truth. And but this modality helps me. It helps my person, my being, to be able to function and to go happy and, you know, almost like inspired through life, instead of like, you know,
Yeah,
going down the road that was leading towards suicide.
but do you have moments of doubt still? That's what I want to ask. Because
Totally, yeah, and it's
I never
totally, and I
do.
crawl
I
out of
haven't
it.
had.
There's forgetfulness,
Yeah,
amnesia.
I never do. I'm not trying to say I'm special. I'm just explaining like I haven't had one moment of doubt of that in years. Like even at my worst, like it's not even a inch of doubt. Like it's
Mm,
zero. So that's like
mm.
what I think the difference is. Because and this is what I want to say. And Nick, I think like it kind of ties back to kind of like the main point I'm trying to make is like I feel like, and you kind of made reference to it. It's like I feel like when there's this constant seeking, for me, like I was never really a seeker. I just let shit happen. And that is what made things like actually kind of turn out the way they did. Right. And I'm not putting myself in a position like I'm like, oh my God, I'm close to God, blah, blah. It's more just like I never like Trey, you always worked so much harder on your spirituality than I did. You know? Like
Yeah, it's true.
you searched so much, but I just like I kind of just fucking like let shit happen. I don't know. I'm not saying one's
Mm.
better. Maybe it was just,
No, I
you know,
totally feel you.
you're a Virgo, I'm a Pisces, like a Pisces Sag, like I never really seek that much. And I feel like sometimes when people are so caught, and it goes back to my thing about the circle, when you're so trying so hard, especially like as a mercurial yourself, Trey, um, you know, you can get definitely caught in that mix up, you know, and overthinking, right, can come up and doubts and all that stuff, which is part of the journey for you. You know, like you have your and you know, if you want to call it astrological makeup or whatever, for a reason, right? To test you. And um I think yeah, so I think that for me, I was never seeking that much. I just kind of like let shit happen. I always still drank alcohol. I always still, I mean, I don't really drink anymore, but like I never really looked that hard besides astrology, where I was just like, I love this shit. Like my
Mm,
soul lights on fire, Like I never really
mm,
pushed myself to be anything, I guess. And I feel like
mm,
maybe like I don't know, anyone have any reaction to to the idea of like really like Nick, like you were talking about the professors, right? Like it made me think of someone who's like really trying to figure it all out.
Mhm.
Um, besides that versus just kind of letting shit happen.
mm,
Yeah, I mean, it's funny, right? Because in some sense, I think a large part of my path has been abandoning truth, like the recognition that there's no utilitarian value in pursuing an objective truth because it can't be had. And
mm,
so the only way you can really continue to exist in the world is by sort of a willed irrationality, where despite the limits of your knowledge and your inability to grasp the totality of reality, you persist regardless, because your other option is stagnation and death, and that's not actually an option. uh,
yeah. Yeah, and
Yeah.
I understand that like seeking to you can get caught in the treasure hunt. And it's almost like the closer you get, the the more layers you unpack and it's like, but for me, sometimes that seeking is the thing that sets my soul on fire. It's like
Yeah.
that treasure
Exactly.
hunt, that searching, that digging in the unseen places, the exploring the uncharted caves is the thing that lights me on fire. It's that like
But you need to
it,
know though.
huh?
You really need to know. Like I don't need to know.
Well, it's not about, yeah, perhaps, there is a side of me that's like, I need some sort of confirmation. I don't know. But I think, what really, it's really is just like, I love the exploration of it.
Yeah.
It's maybe that I don't know anything, but that I will, it's just the act of exploring and finding new things, new beliefs. Like, oh, like I love it when I'm like, oh damn, like this thing that I thought so much to be true has just suddenly crumbled away. It's like this humbling thing that just makes me like, oh god damn, like boom, it's just destroyed. And then all of a sudden what's there is just a fresh blank canvas for you to just, it's like these are the waters you've never swam in before, so it's like really refreshing to kind of, and sometimes when I get down, it's because I think I've been stuck and stagnant in the same place for too long, in the same recycling the
Yeah.
same beliefs, recycling the same stories. And then when, I
Not
think the
not building on them, right?
rejuvenation comes when it's like, oh wait, here's a little crack that I haven't found before. Just like I've lived in this place for almost a year now, and I just went biking down the road and found all these hiking trails and like this fountain spring that I never even knew was there just down the road. And for me, that in a spiritual sense, like makes me feel really, great to like, oh yeah, this is a whole new truth, a whole new way to look at things, a whole new perspective. Just like how I loved that DMT trip where I got to be different animals. I got to experience like a different reality through the
Yeah,
lens of
that's so
different
cool.
creatures, like lizard life, like what that instinct
Which
feels
one
like,
was the dopest?
what those senses are.
Which one
So
was the dopest? Which animal life was the dopest? Cats?
I don't know why, but I fucking love that lizard. It's so kaleidoscopic. And
You kind of
with
look like a fucking lizard.
those chameleons, they can just change color their background. Same with like octopus and stuff. Like those guys really hit
They
hit home for some reason.
they fuck.
Yeah, they fuck, man.
it's weird you say that. I feel like I've taken a lot of LSD trips and had that like the ground's been like salamander skin, and I get this like
Mm,
green and blue kind of like affect to the thing. I
totally, yeah.
try to
You
describe it
guys
as
both
like
kind of look like lizards right now. Like tripping me out. I'm like a fucking koala. You guys are like two lizards. Look at us. Lizard, koala. Or rat or whatever the fuck you want to say.
yikes.
Yeah, there's something about it, like, you know, that textured lizard skin that's almost like the DMT textured swirls of reality, that kind of, you know, there's something about that. And, you know, like the Aboriginal arts with those lizards and all the dots and stuff. And like something about that, just like, I don't know what it is, but fuck with it.
Yeah, and it's like the swirls on the snails' shells. It's just like there's clues of the divine everywhere, you know? Like I think to your point earlier, it's just like about like yeah, like being stuck, like when that feeling of being stuck, it's like it might not even be like learning something new. It might be relearning something, you know, because we forget so easily. And
Mm,
maybe at a moment in time, maybe it was during a trip, maybe it was in a past incarnation, you know, you're literally relearning something, and that's like what you're doing, as opposed to like, you know, erasing something, you know, as being, or like that you believed in for a while as being completely false.
mm.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like in some sense, a lot of this information, it's not necessarily even you like useful, utilitarian wise.
Podcast.
Like I don't climb mountains
Nick,
to get to the peak just,
Nick,
Yeah,
because it's useful. It's for wonder. It's not
yeah,
what's up?
yeah.
yeah, totally. And you can get caught in the act of like, some days you just wait, you're like, oh, I'll go on a hike, and you just like, you're just powering down, like head down to the ground, just like trying to get to the top, you know, without really thinking about it. And
Trucking, yeah.
then compared to those times where you hike the mountain, you take all those stops and
It's
you
good. It's
watch
good.
nature, and it's just about the journey up there and then the wonder at the top. But yeah. Hey, Jesse, mute yourself for a sec.
What's that?
Mute yourself for a sec. I can hear your conversation.
I can't hear anything.
I can hear your conversation, Jesse.
Okay, one
I mean,
second. I'll mute it.
yeah, but yeah, I was kind of wary of our time because I know that I said an hour, but like how are you doing, Nick?
What time
And
is it?
everything.
Oh, word. Yeah, I'm hanging out. Today's my day off. Y'all caught me in the middle of a draft session for a new piece I'm working on. But no worries. I'm down to play.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so anything on the tip of your tongue right now?
Well, it's wild to like touch into things like belief systems because they are such a huh, kind of
Yeah,
thing. If
totally.
you poke somebody in a soft spot.
Yeah, definitely. It can be a touchy subject, and especially people when they aren't ready can to let go of certain belief systems. You know, there you can definitely meet a wall.
Right.
Um, but then at the same time, I'm like, okay, why am I poking so much? Why am I trying to dismantle this person's belief system?
Right. Not even that they should give it up, just
Yeah.
because I love meeting people who have a system that I think is totally off the wall and wild,
Mhm.
and that is actually more useful than mine. Uh,
Yeah.
I never thought I would be into the Christian thing, but I've read a
Yeah.
ton of books, and it's spectacular. Like the metaphysics are amazing, and
Mm.
Marxist atheist me rolls in his metaphorical grave, but yeah, to abandon a system because it's not palatable metaphysically is a
Mm.
tragedy if it's useful.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, I've had a very interesting journey with Christianity because, yeah, like we said, in the atheist is like a outright denial of it. And then I met this guy named Jeremiah who was a Christian, but he preached a lot, but he did not preach from the Bible. He preached from the Book of Enoch, and so it's that
Sure.
kind of same Christian thing, but he had kind of taken his own route with it. And I know he was more like a mystical kind of Christian. And I remember we were just in this moment by the river, and he said, I'm just getting a message from God. Can I show you? And I said, sure. And he's like, okay, I'm going to put my right hand on your shoulder. Is that okay? And I said, yes. He puts his right hand on my shoulder, and I'm at first it's just nothing. And then all of a sudden, flooded, like absolutely flooded with a love so intense I started crying right there. And then light, like light that completely saturated everything, like behind my closed eyes, everything just went white, and there was just this resounding like pure powerful force of love that just took me over. And then it lasted like an eternity, and then he lifted his hand off, and it like the glow of a candle slowly kind of retreated away and just left me in this like silence of like awe, like whoa, what the hell just happened? And I didn't know that I could access that through Christianity, or I guess through this guy's practice. But I guess at the core of it, it is that real message. Is that it's kind of that pure white light love sort of energy, which I hadn't experienced before.
Man, I love that. I consider myself someone who's sort of mechanistic. I have this, I like systems a lot. I like, get up in the morning, do X, Y, and Z, and that'll like prep you for, B, C, and A later in the day. It's very like I like systematized function. But then every
Yeah.
now and again, somebody will do something like that to me, where
Yeah.
I'll be at a tea house or at by the creek or whatever, and someone will come up and like just smash me in the face with like this insane metaphysical, like unexplainable event, and
Yeah.
it definitely keeps me on my toes.
Yeah. Like Thor hammer to the face. Yeah. Yeah. And those moments, like, I met this lady in Costa Rica who moved trees with the wind, like just did it. And I'm still in disbelief about it. My brain still hasn't properly registered that it's happened, even though I can see it and see it with my eyes. Moments in life where these people kind of stop by and just kind of give you a rock and shake you up a bit. It's crazy.
Yeah, I love a good miracle. It's
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Hey,
gosh.
Jesse, are you? I can see your girlfriend
You can
twerking in
see
the
her. They can see you. They can see you.
background. So, moving on from white
Getting a
light to twerking.
temptress.
That's another miracle in itself, isn't it?
Equally divine.
Yeah.
Booty.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, it's my religion.
Well, if you had to pick,
Ass is your religion.
Yes, one of them.
Yeah. I mean, I love systematic things too. I think it's because I have that like Jesse would put it, like the practical Mercury and Virgo. I mean, like I read a lot of fantasy fiction and sci-fi, and I write in that genre.
I was checking out your I think you were on Fiverr or maybe it was Upwork. I was looking at
Yeah.
the offerings there. Very cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm working on a couple of like sci-fi comics and stuff right now. But one thing I love in a good fantasy book is like a magic system that you can see how it works. Compared to like Harry Potter, where it's like they just wave a wand and something happens. It's like a systemic magic system that's described, and it's like, wow, like if I practice that, I could achieve that. It's
Yeah.
like I love
Yeah.
that feeling in a fantasy fiction book, and I think that's what's so great about a lot of the Eastern teachings is that they have a roadmap,
Yeah, mantra, like
and it's
mantras
worked
and
upon. Like Patanjali, he paved the first way, and then all these other mystics started coming in and adding on to him, and like, well, not Patanjali first, but I guess the Vedas to begin with, but then it branched out into this crazy tree where all of a sudden all these, the agoris are coming in, and they're eating feces and drinking their own piss, and covering themselves in the ash of dead bodies and eating out of skulls and stuff to explore the divine in the most rejected parts of reality and humanity. So it's amazing.
Yeah, in some sense, that's why I think I got so much into the Western esoteric canon because, don't get me wrong, Patanjali system is spectacular. I think I started with that as a meditative discipline. Actually, while we're talking, I think my meditation video just went up on YouTube. I scheduled it.
Hell yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, it just to be able to be like, all right, look, get your ethics square, and then from there, learn how to stretch yourself out so you can be still for a period of time, and then learn how to breathe. And then all that together will build into this wonderful thing where you'll be able to sit for longer and longer and longer. And eventually you'll absorb into your object. And that's spectacular. It blows my mind that it took, a while for that kind of thing to emerge where it's so, no, look, you want to get to God, here's how, here's the roadmap. You just gotta
Your videos
go
are
on.
so pragmatic and good. What's your YouTube channel called, by the way? Plug it.
It's called Conjunction Press.
Yeah, it's very.
Yeah, everyone listening, go check that out because
Are you
Nick
gonna-
is so clear
Yeah,
and
really good.
concise with
Yeah,
explanation.
it's so to the point. Like it's like, would you put them on Instagram? Are they too long? Are they like 15 minutes or shorter? Your videos?
Some of them are 15 or shorter. The one on
put those on
meditation, I think 18.
Put those on Instagram if you can. Yeah, you should be able to, and then I'll share it.
Oh, word, yeah, for sure. That'd be awesome.
It's just hard. It's very hard. It's very hard to get people to move from Instagram to YouTube. Like you think it'd be easier, but it's like it's so fucking hard. Like I swear to God, it's so hard to get people to move, even to TikTok, like to any platform. It's like crazy. I thought it'd be easy, but it was like so hard.
Well, it's probably the method of consumption, right? Like you go to Instagram, you scroll, and then you put your phone away, and then 5 minutes later you scroll some more. But YouTube, you kind of like are like with something for a prolonged period of time.
True. I prefer YouTube.
Yeah, I mean,
Trey is responsible for my fucking addiction to YouTube, you motherfucker. Watching his like fuck, he used to watch like iPhone. He used to watch like a attractive Asian girl unpack a fucking iPhone case, and that's like it's like, what the fuck are you watching, dude? And he just like would be like, and like watch like such mundane. You watch like families like in like a kitchen talking about what they're gonna cook for dinner. Trey's like a voyeur. Trey's like a voyeur. He likes to like watch people do regular things.
No, hell yeah, I can. It's the religion of the aesthetic.
Yeah, his neighbors. Trey has binoculars. That's why he had to move to France. That's why he had to move to France, because now he lives like away from people, because he had this habit of like spying on neighbors with binoculars. And he's very smart. He's mercurial, so he had drones and stuff that would like film like neighbors. He had all this weird stuff. Like the UK police got involved, so
super villain Trey.
Yeah, he just had to get out of the UK. That's actually the truth why he's not in there. Why he's in France.
On the hunt. Fuck, man! I told you not to fucking bring that up on here, man.
But this, the statute of limitations is passed, so he can't get in trouble for it anymore. In the UK, it's very short statute of limitations of voyeurism, so he's safe. He's safe in France. He can't get expedited.
You learn something every day,
Probably what got me into that Eastern meditation. They're just like, observe, man. Just observe.
Observe thy neighbor. My first commandment.
Hey, whoa! Like I'm just doing that practice where you observe the object until the object falls away and it reveals its true essence. I'm not like actually like.
Yeah, you get in trouble. Yeah, Trey gets in trouble like staring at some like his drones like staring at some girl's feet or something, and he's like, no, and they arrest him. He's like, it's actually all a spiritual practice. And like, okay, Treharn.
Please put your hands on the vehicle, on the hood of the vehicle, sir.
We're like, yeah, we understand you. Like, you're free. That'd be great if the world worked like that. You spiritually bypass crime. I'm working on non-attachment, non-observance. I don't know. That's all I got. And just anyone wondering, that's not true. I know some people will actually like. I don't really laugh when I'm joking, so Trey doesn't do that. Just clearing that up, because maybe someone will think Trey actually does that. You never know. People believe crazy shit. Hopefully, other people listening to this. It's all made up, guys. I promise. I promise. I promise.
All right, we got. I think.
Now I made them believe. Now I made them believe that you actually did it. So
That's
Uh,
frightening.
Okay, going back and forth. When will this
Yeah.
end? All right.
Never.
So yeah, backtracking off that tangent, we were I guess yeah, we were jumping into Patanjali. You were saying how you kind of you were more seduced by the West, I guess. I remember you gave me that comic book, which was like the guide to magic or something.
Oh yeah, I think it's the Psychonauts Field Manual, 4th edition.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, you know those memes where it's like God's not enough. I have to, whatever. I feel like that was how I felt about Patanjali's system, where it's like the experience of God isn't enough. I have to write 20 books, and I needed to like find a way to branch out from just trance and like laser absorption into a
Yeah.
more holistic spread of action.
Mm.
And I found the Western system is great for that because you do the lightning path on the tree of life instead of like from base straight to God. You kind of like take your time, you meander through all the different varieties of subjective experience to try to sort of if not perfect, at least make them better than they were before.
Now, have you ever found like a reliable system in terms of like, like there's city yoga, and
mm,
they all say like, once you reach certain levels of attainment, you gain cities naturally. But there's also a branch of yoga where they're like, I'm not ready to go fully one with God. I just want to have some powers. I want to be able to fly. I want to be able to reanimate a corpse's body by entering it. I want to be able to duplicate myself. you know.
sure, by location,
Um,
yeah.
yeah. So is there any kind of Western equivalent to that?
Yeah, okay, so the big one is the Golden Dawn, right? Everybody knows it. That's kind of the system people are acquainted with when they get into magic. But most folks who have heard about it don't necessarily know that the Golden Dawn is actually just the outer order of a larger Rosicrucian, like inner order school. So you're not even allowed to practice heavy duty magic until you've gone through all of the outer order grades. And then when you get
Yeah.
to the grade Adeptus Minor, that's when you start to get to play with magic, or what we might call cities, or sort of whatever else. Every time that a miracle has happened, well, okay, how do I phrase this without sounding like a lunatic? Every time
go with it.
my
Say
vessel
it.
has been in, let's say, the channel of a miraculous event, it has
Yeah.
always been
Sounds very
through a
sexual.
particular deity. Oh my God, yeah, like almost every time.
So you're
Yeah.
saying
It,
you had sex?
not
The,
like, so when you have a great role and you're really like you merge with somebody and it's this sort of wonderful, and then there's the orgasm and you're both like one for like 5 seconds. So it's sort of like that, but with a god. So they come down and like inhabit your vessel, and then they do a thing, and it's like orgasm's about as close as I can. It's like the most equivalent thing I can say for like secular kind of experience about it. But
yeah.
every time a miracle has happened, it's been something like that.
Yeah, like a cosmic pumped up orgasm. I've had a couple of those cosmic orgasms, and they're way better than a normal orgasm. It's like it's hitting you
Way
on
better.
nerves and systems that are invisible that you didn't even know you had, like tapped into some sort of ethereal poundage town where it's just like blasted, and it's just like pure supreme divine ecstasy, unadulterated, like shabam, like. And then there's no like, you know release after for males, where we kind of have that down. It's like I don't know. I haven't when I experienced it. It's like
Post nut
this
clarity.
nice afterglow. It's like you're energized by it instead of
Mhm.
like de-energized.
Yeah, there's one experience that comes to mind like vividly. I was camping in the desert in Moab in Utah, and we were about to get just walloped by a storm front. I mean, it was like the thunder clouds in the sky, and the wind was blowing at us, and you could see the lightning strikes out in the distance. And
Was this with
we're
Mott?
was this with Mott?
Yeah, I
Oh
remember
no,
hearing
no.
this story. There's another time where you guys got destroyed by water. We have to talk about Mott after this. Just throwing in there. Okay, continue.
Yeah, so I was I'm out in the desert. My friend Melanie and I, and our friend I think Lucas was with us, and we were it was do we try to hike out and then drive out? Like, there's no way. So I lit a candle. I just bring ritual supplies with me sometimes, and I I started to pray, and I started to dance and sing, and it was like this total spontaneous, bizarre sort of expression of like, hey, pay attention to me, I need help.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And and then I got it. Uh, the goddess I was praying to answered me, like clears a bell, and then borrowed me for like a couple of seconds. And I did this. I don't even know what happened. My arms like wiggled around, and it was this whole
Yeah.
experience. And then the storm clouds just busted. They just like totally
Yeah.
dispersed.
Boom.
We did
And
that
it
too,
was
Trey. Remember?
Wait, yeah, we did. Are you finished? You want to keep
No,
going on
continue,
your?
continue, continue.
no, I
continue,
mean,
continue.
long story short, storm clouds busted, clear skies for the rest of the night. It was beautiful. Stars overhead.
Yeah.
And then, speaking of lizards, actually earlier, a salamander just jumped up on my legs when I was sitting in lotus later that night by the
Wow.
fire.
Wow. Hell yeah.
Look at
Yeah.
beef, huh?
Yeah,
But
that's incredible. You just yeah, there was this one book I read about like how the master can just, he was like he was like removing clouds and stuff and with just a blink of an eye. And yeah, it's just
Let's hear about.
it's something that, you can't really relate unless you've experienced it. Jesse and I have, we're on the same page with you, Nick. We've seen the miracles, we've seen
We've
things
done
like
it.
that
We made it.
happen.
We made it rain. We made it rain.
We made it rain with a drum rain dance right in the dorms with
nice.
Sylvia and oh god, what was her name? Sylvia's roommate. I can't remember.
Who the
Sorry.
fuck? I thought it was just us.
But no,
That's
it was,
fine.
and there was
Oh
like
yeah, there's other
a bunch of
girls
people
there.
and we were dancing around. We're like, let's make it rain, and so we just we just made it rain. And
Is that when
then
I
we're like,
became the? Is that when I became the Turkish tea woman?
yeah, that's when you became the Turkish tea woman. You were making tea for everyone.
I just snapped into. I snapped into this like past life.
Became like a grandma.
I was like kind of like this Turkish lady who just like was like a grandma and just made tea for all the guests that came over, and I was like very in this
Aw.
role. It was weird. It's
That's
cool.
lovely.
And
It was
right
dope.
after the rain, we were like, now let's make a rainbow. We were like dancing in it, and we're like, rainbow time now. And the sky cleared right above the Naropa courtyard, the dorm, the Snow Lion courtyard, and boom, a rainbow just peeked right over it.
Spectacular.
So, when you tap into that sort of state, it's just you can access that. And I mean, even tea, like I with like there, I was at this rainbow gathering in Costa Rica, and there was just this tea house, and I just walked in on it and got sucked into this like vortex, kind of like the Alice in Wonderland Mad Hatter thing. And we were just drinking normal tea, some oolong shit or something. And he was just like going around like dancing like tea 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 and just like we love tea tea, and it was just we just
Makes it
got into
better.
this like kind
Makes it
of
so much
trance with it, and you're just drinking this tea and it keeps getting poured, and then you just like fall into this like you're no longer yourself drinking tea, you're the tea, and there's this music and this dancing and this feeling that comes along, and I think one of the most, I guess, common thread is like putting yourself into a state where you're out of the way, where your ego is no longer in it. You're into a trance like state, whether it's either you're observing something to let in until you're no longer the one observing it, or you're doing some shamanic drumming to enter a trance, or you're lighting a candle, doing visualizations, prayers to God, Christianity, you're doing the Islamic bowing and praying, or any sort of
Listening to
thing. It's like
trance.
getting into a trance, yeah, or
Yeah,
listening.
yeah.
running and listening to trance. That's how I do it.
Yeah. Every time I experience it, it's always the affect of not my but thy will. Like it's this sort of giving up of self that manifests those sorts of experiences.
Yeah.
Gosh, yeah.
Yeah, there's nothing more powerful I've ever experienced than running on my treadmill. Like I have like a little treadmill I bought here. I have like, and it's like in a really small room, so I can like keep that room heated. Although now I have to like be careful with it. But like
Mm.
it's like I keep it really hot, and I just like run and like I lock the door and I just like listen to my music, and it's just like I feel like, and it's so powerful, like it just releases all negativity, like anything, like toxins, everything, like it's just like with the sweat, but also like with the music. It's like this, like it's like the most perfect thing I've ever experienced. It's like the music, it's like made for me, you know. And it's just like it gets better with the endorphins,
Yeah.
and it's just such a spiritual kind of music. Like I don't know, it's fucking amazing.
Yeah, I would love to find headphones I could swim in. I'm like,
I'm sure you could.
I've been doing lengths around the lap pool, and I just
Mm.
it'd be totally wonderful to have, like dead mouse in my ears while that happened. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah. There was this one like hotel I went to, and they had speakers in the pool under the water. And so you couldn't hear the music above the water, but the second you went under, there was just like this ethereal kind of music playing under the water.
that's
So
awesome.
nice.
Oh yeah, my mom had a bath that was like that, but it wasn't music. It was like just like random sounds. There's only like a few built-in sounds. It was like fuck. It would have been so cool if it was like you could like control the music. That'd be so dope. Imagine having a bath for like a big ass bath with
Right.
like underwater fucking music, and you can only
It's like
oh my god.
turn the bass up to 11 and then just have the whole tub like vibrate you.
Yeah, it's like a yeah. Fuck, it's
So I just
crazy.
noticed we're on the verge of 2 hours. So I was thinking we could start kind of having some closing discussions, any things that we just wanted to really get off into the open or just speak about.
Yeah.
Yeah, Nick, if you even had anything you wanted to shout out, or, hey, like I didn't get to say this earlier, but it's still, on the top of my chest, and my tongue wants to tickle it into the air.
Sure. Well, I mean, not something that occurred to me earlier, but just I feel like when folks sit down for things like these, or talk about spirituality in general, or do, whatever their modality, whether it's tarot or runes or astrological function or meditation or whatever it is, I think there's this tacit recognition that there is a tremendous amount of suffering in the world, and the function is to help uh, as much as possible. And we talk about stories like miracles and all these sorts of things. It's like, okay, well, sure, whether or not they're helpful is not super useful. But I just, I hope if folks wind up listening to this, that if they enter a discipline or enter a practice, that some of the experiences we talked about are, well, for the first go, make people feel like they're not insane, because they're not. These experiences are weird, and folks aren't alone. And just I'm just glad to be on. I hope that this can be helpful to someone. I appreciate you guys for having me.
Yeah, we're really
Thanks.
happy to have you. We're like excited. We
Pleasure.
came, you were popping up in my stories. I know Jesse was having a conversation with you, and just like came full circle. And who knows how the threads of fate were pulled in this direction. But I really had a great time speaking with you, and always love listening to to what you have to say, and kind of tapping into your experience, and what comes, even if it's not your experience and it's some sort of gelatinous alien creature that's speaking through you as some sort of super chaos magic entity.
Oh, yikes. Let's.
Sorry, I won't call that in. But I might want to jump into that. Alien might be a fun time. I did have one last question. I wanted to ask you about, like, so the practice of the Golden Dawn is like, you were kind of speaking more about like calling in deities to your body. So I was wondering, like, do you see a super conscious state that you can access that is, not related to a god, that is, your god version? Because I remember I had I told you about this DMT experience once, where I experienced Ra,
I remember
and
that. Yeah.
Arcturus Raw.
it was so fucking epic that its presence was just so magnanimous, and he was this golden you know, Ra being just like taller than the earth itself, and there were all these like, and I just felt the force like bring me down to like where I was in this like bowing down position, my head to the soil. Like I was so like floored by it, but then I got this imbued like vision through Ra. He like granted me like this passage through time and got allowed me all this visions to see. But I remember you were like, yeah, you bowed. I wouldn't, you know, like I would tell Ra like, fuck you, man. I don't bow to no one. So I was just like wondering if you have some sort of like super, you know, conscious state that isn't like related to kind of like a god. And I don't know if that's that the Golden Dawn works through deific
Right,
practices, or
right.
if there's like a, you know, I like a super you know, like you are the super god to access.
Yeah, so there's this practice, it's called the assumption of a god form. And the notion is when you're scrying on the planes, or when you're doing like a path working, right? So you're doing astral travel, you're visiting places, you're taking your body and you're like projecting outwards. You're going to run into entities like this, like Ra, or whether they're lesser elementals or different kinds of spirits. Normally they're elementals, but they can also be deities. And so, depending on what you need to do, you take on a different god form to
Mhm.
accomplish what's happening. So, you know, I don't know if you, for instance, were gonna do, let's say you were scrying in through Tippereth and you ran into Ra, but you know your function wasn't to get to Ra; it was to like retrieve some other piece of information or a tool or something.
Mhm.
Then you might take on the god form of like Isis and sort of like be like, hey, bud, like good to see you, and sort of try to like work your way around rather than just
Mhm.
be blasted by, you know,
Yeah.
whatever particular archetypal force
Yeah.
was represented there. So,
Yes, that's a great perspective, is that like to these gods are archetypal forces that are almost like a framework. It's almost like a Power Ranger suit that you can like step into. Is that kind of what you're saying? Like
yeah,
even like, you know, all these practices, like, you know, the priestesses who worship the goddess, like eventually it's like becoming, it's like an attainment to a certain framework. It's like eventually the high priestess is the goddess. You know, it gets to that state.
yeah. So the tantrics, the yoga folks have this whole practice where they imbue deities into like chakras. So they'll put like a, you know, whoever rules the heart chakra, for instance, they'll put like Hanuman like in the heart chakra, and that'll like be a, you know, the manifestation of that in deity form, and that's like a perfected version of their heart space.
Yeah.
But for the Golden Dawn system, it's a very similar thing, except it's just the assumption of a god form in a sephira. So instead of a deity in a chakra, it's a god form in a sephira, but it's the same tool, it's the same technique. It's the uncovering of the multifaceted, infinite nature of the self through
Right.
minor archetypes. Uh,
Right. Yeah. Really cool.
but you know, that being said, like sometimes you really do need to get laid to waste. And early on, I think I had just started my GD practice, and so I was probably a little bit of a firecracker when you had told me that experience. I was like, like fuck Raw, like, you know. But you know, sometimes you come face to face with a god, and that's all you can do. I had a goddess lay me out once, and it was incredible. So
Yeah.
I hear that for sure. So.
Yeah. Because I think sometimes we can get, you know, like I know speaking of my experience, you can get pretty high and mighty in the pursuit and get this like ego. You know, I know a lot of people, you know, when you first go down the path, like you're like, oh yeah, I am the Buddha. Yeah. But then yeah, sometimes you know, whether it be an astral experience or through some sort of you know, meeting with an entity or psychedelic thing, it's like sometimes it will fuck you up, it'll tear you apart, it will destroy you. And once you come through that, you know, you're humbled again. And it's a beautiful thing to be humbled again and to be like, oh shit, I was getting high and mighty, wasn't I? Thank you for teaching me a lesson in that.
We need to be humbled, you know? Like everyone needs humbling. feel like you know, even like these last few days, you know, just you know, the Superman syndrome can kick in, you know, not like on an ego level, but just this feeling of like I can do anything, I can accomplish anything, I can, you know, like put all this shit on my plate, and then your fucking my body gets hit with these fucking aches, and I have like zero energy,
Yeah.
and I feel like, yeah, it's like there's always like this like guiding energy. I feel like in astrology we talk about how, you know, everything is energy, right? So it's like, you know, you'll have like, let's say a difficult a square or a difficult opposition in your chart. You can deal with that within yourself. If you don't, that's when it externalizes. You know, that's when you get sickness, or you have other people who mirror it. Um, so yeah, I just like, I feel like, yeah, like humility has been huge lately, just like realizing like, you know, sometimes you gotta just take time off and follow that inner guide, you know. I feel like that's kind of what we started talking about this at the beginning, was like kind of having that inner guide, and not like, you know, like not needing that constant, like, you know, kind of with the meditation stuff. But I was curious about that with you guys too, like how you guys use that inner guide to kind of like know like if you're overextending yourself. Like Trey, you were talking about getting stuck, you know, like feeling stuck, um because it's difficult, you
Yeah.
know, it's difficult to know like in this world, you know, where we're always workhorses. I need some time off, you know, and to give it to yourself.
Yeah, it's like I kind of like to, you know, like Jack Black. No, sorry, not Jack Black. Jack Sparrow. If you ever watch the Pirates of the Caribbean, he has
Yeah,
this compass that points to what he desires most or something. But it's kind of that metaphor that like within us, whatever fucking part that is inside us, you know, call it your heart or your soul or whatever it is, there is some sort of like instinct compass that can kind of point you in the right point you like that tells you, hey, things are not right now. And
yeah,
um I guess I kind of, to get out of that unstuckness, I've been, I guess it's like, okay, I have to like wipe out what my habitual routines have been, even if that's meditation. I gotta fucking scrap it all. I gotta toss it to the wind, and I gotta tune back in and say, okay, where am I pointed to now? Because I think, you know, you can get so disciplined that you just continue to do something forever, but and don't let yourself see that actually, hey, your path is changing. You know, you're
yeah. And autopilot's the worst,
curve
right?
over, huh?
Like auto, like when like in our all of our, probably all our lines of work, it's like there's times where you feel like whenever I feel like I'm doing something on autopilot, I automatically quit. I'm like, this is a sign that like I'm not totally in it, you know, like I need, like I can't do a bad reading, you know, like, so it's like I kind of, I guess my work kind of helps me dictate that. But yeah, it's tough, you know, it's tough to
Well,
know when you need change
I
and
feel like
how to
there's a
change it.
pretty big
Okay.
difference between like discipline and stagnation. Uh,
Mm.
Mm,
I feel like we have a tendency to be like, oh, like take a break, like you're working too hard, or oh, whatever. But I feel like I personally have used that as an excuse, where it's like, oh,
Mm.
like, you know, I've been working so hard, it's time to take a break. And it's like, do you like really like,
Yeah,
it
totally.
depends what kind of, it depends what kind of work you're doing though, you know what I mean, because it's like yeah, I agree, but like okay, if you're writing, for example, because you know you have like a like the story you run, then you write, right? So it's like for your writing, like when it's something artistic, I feel like it's different, you know, like because like when I do readings, it's art. And if I'm not in that position where I'm feeling like the whole thing I talked about, like the metaphysical value,
mhm,
if I'm not, if something's not aligned, if my throat chakra is not opened, you know, I'm not going to be able to give that person what I really want to give them, you know, what God wants
yeah.
me to give them. And I feel like,
Yeah,
yeah,
with like
it's different, you know, with whatever you're doing, I guess. Because I
I
hear
think
you too.
with,
Like,
with Nick and I, because like I bet you sit down every day to write. Like I think a big thing with writers is finding the discipline to actually just like sit down and do it. And you know, so it's like and there's this one thing that Neil Gaiman said, who's like this fiction writer, and he said, you know, some days you're going to be inspired, it's going to flow out of you, and you're going to, attribute it to some sort of like divine gift. And then the next day, you're going to really be struggling. You're going to be doubting every word you put down. You're going to be like freaking in the mud. But then he said, but when he goes back to revisions and he looks back, he can't tell the difference between the two, and neither can the reader. And so there's, and especially, like, so I kind of try to hold that onto, it's like, you don't have to feel good about yourself. You don't have to even like what you're writing. It's like you just have, because sometimes your head gets so in the way where you like all this doubt and stuff. So it's just like, as long as you're doing the work, you're getting down and you're doing the work, then that's it. And I've noticed the same thing too. Some days it's just like so slow, the writing, and I'm like, oh God, fuck, this sucks. And then I submit it to the client, and then they're like, oh my God, thank you so much. This is exactly what I wanted.
It's
I'm
kind
like,
of true.
that surprises me.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
that's kind of funny you say that, because I thought back like there's like a year ago, I remember I had like a period where I was doing readings, and I remember like doing two and thinking like, fuck, that was shit, and but like I sent them anyways, and both people were just like blown away, and I was like, so like, I swear I was so surprised. I was like,
Yeah, exactly.
what? I was like, what?
Yeah.
Like I was like totally like, but then yeah, it's true. It's like, you're, as a writer, as a creator, like you're doing something that's so unique to you that maybe you always wanting that 100. It's like the perfectionism thing, it's like, but like maybe even you at like a 90 or 80, if you're supremely talented, is going to be 100 to someone else regardless.
Yeah. I have a little sticky note I keep on my computer case. I pulled it from Julia Cameron's The Artist Way. It just says, great creator, I'll take care of the quantity, you take care of the quality. Thanks.
That's beautiful.
Sometimes you just got to drill it out and have faith in your capacity to create something cool and just let it come out of you. I love that gaming quote. Thank you for sharing that. That's a wonderful little story.
Yeah, I watched his master class. It was somewhere embedded in there.
Makes sense. Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, this was awesome. Shall we
No, let's keep talking another 4 hours so you don't get to make your dinner. You starve.
Yeah.
Trey needs to make his dinner.
Yeah,
Right,
I gotta
Trey.
cook.
What time is it for you guys? We're
8:30.
7:30 for me, 8:30 for Jesse.
okay, right on.
I have my driving test Friday, so I'm gonna have like a crazy sleeping schedule because it's super fucking early. So I'm gonna stay up because like it's so early. Like I'm a late. I did this last time. I should have passed. I had everything right besides the parking at the end, and I got too close to a car. I didn't even need to do the parking. I would have passed. But I'm gonna wake up at fucking at 1 a.m. I'm gonna go to bed at 3 p.m. I'm gonna wake up at 1 a.m. and then I'm gonna get picked up at like 6, and then I'm gonna fucking just destroy that fucking test. It's gonna be fucking amazing.
God
I might even
bless you, Jesse.
I know. You gotta do what you gotta do. I might even do like a 6 a.m. run, like whatever it takes. I'm not fucking not passing this shit. Like if I don't pass,
Jesse's on a reverse. He's on a nocturnal sleep cycle.
yeah,
So
I can only
wake at night and sleep during the day.
I swear, even in this interview, if you guys actually watch it over, like it was right when nightfall starts, some like my brain starts working. Like I swear, it's like it's just this thing. Like I can't really work when it's light out. And even like my human design, someone like gave me like a little mini reading, and they like said that they validated everything that I've like experienced. They validated. They're like about like the night stuff and eating late. They're like, you could even eat like one meal before you go to bed. I'm like, that's what I fucking do. I eat once a day. I don't eat all during the day. I eat once a day right before I sleep. And like, yeah, and you should not eat when it's light. Like, there's all this random shit that's like, it just shows us we're all so different, and it goes back to like spirituality, right? Where it's like, there's not one tail. Me and Trey always talked because we don't fucking do this podcast ever. We're hopefully going to start more. We always talked about how there's not one, everyone has a different spiritual path, just the Buddha's path, Jesus path, Trey path, Nick path, Jesse path, they're all different. But like at the end of the day, we're all trying to, get closer to the divine, understand the divine, whatever it is. We're trying to
Trying to do something
do something that feels
or not.
yeah, or not. But like we're living through experience, and we're here for it, and it's the journey, not the destination, as they say.
Journey, not the destination.
That'll
All
be
righty,
good.
ready. So, Nick, do you want to maybe shout out a couple things as we pull to an end?
In terms of
There's
Where
like
people can find you,
some
how people
Oh.
can look you up, and
some racist
Sure.
chants, some racist
Sure,
chants.
yeah.
If you know.
Right.
Yeah, I'm on YouTube. Conjunction Press is the name of the channel. My website is conjunctionbooks.com. You can find most of the books I published there. I'm on Instagram, but not really. I just kind of like give parts of my soul away to it without really engaging. But yeah, if you want to read me, definitely check out conjunctionbooks.com, and I hope you get a kick out of it.
yeah,
Yeah,
cool.
we'll have to do this again sometime for sure.
Yeah,
Had
I'd love to
fun.
do that con for y'all guys. This was a blast.
Yeah,
Again,
it
thank
really
y'all. Thank
is.
y'all very much.
Maybe next time
Well-
we'll be in a VR multi-metaverse, speaking
believe
through
so.
our galactic avatars.
Speaking through our dicks.
That's your avatar. Okay, guys. So
Yeah,
let's
fuck you.
bring it to an end. Thank you guys.
All right,
all
guys. Yeah,
for
thanks for
watching.
listening, and talk to you guys in 7 months.
Yeah, thank
Oh,
you so
yeah.
much, Nick, for coming on. Such an honor and a pleasure.
No, truly it was mine. If y'all get a chance, send me over that recording. I'd love to throw it up.
Yeah, we'll do. All right, later, guys. End recording.